Yeah. I will call the meeting to order at 6:06. If anyone's recording, they can make it known. First item in preliminary business is interview a couple of candidates for vacancies on the board. First up is Sam Corbett. Sam, if you give us a brief spiel about yourself and why you'd like to help us out here at the planning board, that'd be helpful.
Well, I've always been happy to help out the town. Brief history, I was a member of the school committee, the Fields and Grounds Committee, Community Preservation Committee, State Rep, Assistant Director of the Massachusetts Treasury Lottery. And prior to all that, I was a partner in a company that developed fast food restaurants. So that was helpful. I think I bring a lot to the table.
Any board members have questions of Sam?
I have some questions. This
Sure.
is Richard. So, Sam, Richard Swenson here. First of all, thank you very much for applying. We need help and we need citizens to step up, and your efforts are appreciated. I would ask you to tell me two of the top issues that you think you would want to prioritize yourself as a member of the planning board. And after you do that, I'll pick one and ask you to tell me what steps you would take to initiate improvements there. So I'll turn it over to you there.
Well, first of all, I think we need a comprehensive plan on solar energy. From my house, I can walk to 5 different fields, and we really have no plan. I think we need to put something together so we can protect our property and also be conscious about the environment.
And second priority?
Commercial. I think we have to do it better than we've been doing it. We have a lot of vacant buildings. We can give incentives to people to come in and renovate rather than build new on virgin land.
So my follow-up would then, I'd focus on the commercial development aspect. My thoughts on commercial are that we have, I think it's only like 17% of our tax revenue comes from commercial development as opposed to 83% coming from residential. So when you say incentivize commercial development, can you talk to me a little bit about what techniques come to mind?
Depending on how big the company was and what they would do for the tax base, you can always do incentives with property taxes for a certain length of time. I think that would draw some more business into the areas we need.
That's my only question, George.
Just so you know, before I got involved in the school committee and all, I was a partner in a company that built Wendy's. So I'm not opposed to commercial at all. We had 118 stores all over the country, so I'm very aware of commercial development.
And how do you reconcile? I read on your application that you're a founding member of the Wareham Land Trust.
Correct.
Those two concepts are, I don't want to overstate it, but they're coming at it from the opposite ends.
I disagree. I mean, the Land Trust isn't working on Cranberry Highway. They're working on protecting the environment, the ponds, the streams, the herring run. I mean, those aren't places you're going to have development per se. Those are places that the Land Trust can help the town.
I'll leave it right there.
Sam, there's 2 positions open, a full board member as well as an associate. Would you have a preference, or?
Well, I hear you need a full-time member right away. I'd be willing to do that. If you wanted to be assistant, that'd be fine too.
Okay.
Whatever you need the most, George, is what I'll be willing to do.
Well, I think we need both, but I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, to be clear, Sam, both the associate and the full-time would be expected to participate in all meetings, all discussions, and all presentations. just that the associated has limited voting authority.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
Anybody else have a question or comment
I
for
do.
Sam?
Yeah, I do if I could. Sam, this is Mike King. I like the idea of trying to rejuvenate existing facilities. Where in town do you think would be a jump off point in your mind?
Well, Cranberry Highway has many locations that could use some help. I mean, the old spray plant is a disaster. It's a prime piece of property right there in the corner, and you have the stoplight right there. I think that would be a good place to start.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch. What do you think would be perfect?
The old ocean spray plant,
Oh, right across from Harbor Freight?
correct.
Yeah. So I guess the incentives that we would look at in order to entice developers to take on a project that needs rehab would probably have to ride both sides of the fence. I got to believe there's probably landowners that would be reluctant to give their property up. I mean, that property, in my mind, that property is a prime piece of real estate, and yet it sat vacant for years and years and years. So I would think we would run into landowners that maybe just aren't interested in doing anything, and the incentives would have to kind of be on both sides, the seller and the developer.
Well, that's what we're talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay. All right. I mean, I love the idea of cleaning up what's existing already. So you and I would be singing from the same page for sure.
I think that's a priority.
That's all I have, George.
Okay. Any other questions of Sam?
Nope,
All right,
happy
thank
as a
you.
clam, George.
What's that?
Happy as a clam.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Next, we have Carl Schultz. I met Carl on Main Street when he was walking his dog, and
And you sucked them right in, didn't you?
Yeah,
again, tell us a little about yourself, Carl.
yes. Hi, my name's Carl Schultz. My wife and I have retired to Wareham. We've had property here for over 10, but we've been living full time for the 5. So now that I'm retired and fully living, I'd like to get involved in the community. In the community, I've been involved with the dog park effort primarily because my daughter's passionate about it, and with the community gardens. So that's involvement. So in town, over in Jersey, where I lived before, I was on the Board of Appeal for 10 years, and I was chairman of the Housing Advisory Board for over 10 years. So I'm very involved in community development, affordable housing, and things like that. Anticipating Richard, I'll just jump in. The one that I am passionate is improving property values, and I think improved curb appeal on the Route 20 border there. It does not speak well to how great this community is. Drive down that corridor, I think.
Is it just me? Broken up.
I'm sorry.
The
I don't
audio
know if it's my computer or you kind of breaking up on your. Is anybody else?
Yeah, I'm getting the same thing, George.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe a little closer to your speaker or something.
Switch speaker that it doesn't get better. Switch from my head to the computer audio. You heard my input in New Jersey with the Zoning Board of Appeals and the affordable housing in New Jersey. That's really my ground in community involvement. And as I said, I think ability free in Wareham to continue to improve the feel of our community people who want to either invent their business here or they're on here. And I think we need to think so the downtown street redevelopment idea, as well as moving the 28 crore, just to make it more active in a businesses and arts. Did I cost? Was that?
Well, you say, I got most of what you said, but it was kind of broken up. Any board members have any questions of Mr. Schultz?
No, I'm good.
Richard, you're muted.
I think I heard you say, the words I heard were curb appeal on Route 20 on Cranberry Highway in East Wareham. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I used the curb appeal. I just think to improve the appeal people driving through that corner. It would appeal to more business owners, attracting people to the place, which is a great place to live.
So what would your second priority be as a planning board member other than curb appeal up there?
I thought of that to ask the question, and I think I would like to help improve communication with the members of the town. And I'm going to use the example of what I think, not taking your sides, what happened with the whole attempt to develop the notice tract over in the other. So I think there was an awful lot of miscommunication, and I trying to prove getting the information out of town more clearly. Help us as a town, help the town move forward. Anything that was to do, it was something that some of those that seemed to have been I as a resident at the time pursued. So help improve communications with member community via secondary.
Okay, thank you. I have no more questions, George.
Anyone else? Not hearing any. Carl, do you have a preference whether it was the associate position or the full member?
I hadn't really didn't preference the ability to contribute as best as possible. Open.
Right, just checking. If there's no more questions, I'd like to thank both of you for coming forward. I think the appointing authority is meeting on, what's Thursday, is it? I think.
Correct.
And,
Yeah, I had it out in me for Thursday to come down to town hall.
And the board will be making a recommendation to me, and I will pass that on to the appointing authority.
That's this Thursday, George?
Yes. The 22nd, that's Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so thank you again, both Sam and Carl. Again, to anybody else out there listening, we need more participation in government leadership. The openings are there. So again, thank you very much for applying. Appreciate it.
Very well, thank you.
Well,
does the board wish to make a recommendation at this time, or do you want to discuss it after we get our business out of the way?
I'd like to discuss it after business, if that's all right with everybody else.
Okay,
I'll go either way.
very good.
Yeah,
Next item I have is a public hearing on the, I guess it's a the warrant article that amends section 590 to restrict the lot size and clearing for solar fields. I don't have the full context in front of me. Was this one you didn't get to last week, this bylaw?
This was not on the agenda last week, George. This
Oh,
is this is the first time this one is come up. I think that's why you see it on the agenda as a public hearing where everything else is listed under a continued public hearing.
Is this a citizen's petition, Richard?
It
Or
is.
is it- Okay,
I'll give you a little background on it. A group of citizens got together that included 2 planning board members, 2 conservation committee members, and a Wareham Land Trust member who, working with the director of planning, had informal discussions about options that we may have in slowing down the clear cutting and the size of the solar plants going in. And we came up with a article which was submitted to the Board of Selectmen for consideration for the spring annual town meeting. And at that time, the Board of Selectmen discussed it. They did not vote on it, but basically tabled the article, and it was not put on any warrant. At that point, Nancy McHale from the Wareham Land Trust sponsored an article with similar objectives in terms of size and clear cutting restrictions. And a citizen's petition was executed, and signatures were turned in to the town clerk, and they were authorized, and it is now on the warrant. And I believe I forget the number, but it's definitely on the warrant right now.
It's number 17, Richard, in the special town meeting,
Thanks.
within the annual town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I think the appropriate thing to do is to allow the sponsor, Ms. McHale, to introduce the bill to the public hearing. I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but that's what I would do.
I would say she's the best one to explain it to everyone, so if you're prepared for that, Nancy.
I am. Thank you very much. And I apologize that I'm on the old computer tonight, so you don't get video, but that may be to your benefit as well. This article is to amend subsection 9 or 594.1 to read, to be sited on a parcel at least 3 acres in size, no more than 10 acres in size. A portion of the portion of the parcel used for solar generation facilities must have been previously cleared of trees for a period of at least 5 years prior to the submission of the project for approval. Aerial photos that are time date stamped or come from a government source may be used to show the time of clearing. The appropriate reviewing board will have the sole discretion in determining compliance with this standard. The genesis of that is that Wareham now has 19 large solar farms with approximately another 7 in the works. The zoning bylaws that are in place were put in 2014 when solar generation, the large scale utility grade were just starting to be done. And it didn't take into account any of the unintended consequences. The purpose of this article is to give time for the town to take a step back, consider the new incentives that the state is drawing up, to look at those unintended consequences of clear cutting the forest, getting rid of all of that sequestered carbon, and that sort of thing. The current bylaws have no restrictions on size or land clearing. no restrictions on adulteration of topography, no limit on the number of farms in town, no mitigation required for environmental changes, no specific siting requirements, and they don't seem to adequately address public safety, minimize the impacts on scenic, natural, archaeological, or historic resources. The rest of the bylaw would remain unchanged. It has no effect if somebody wanted to put up a parking lot canopy or on top of buildings. None of those things would be affected by this change. Like I said, Wareham has already lost 285 acres to an assortment of solar fields, with about another 200 acres in the pipeline, and that actually may be more closer to 250 or 275. This is not simply a Wareham problem. Many towns have been placing limits on clear cutting, limiting the location, limits on visual impacts, increasing setbacks, etc. Plymouth now limits the size of a ground-mounted solar to 15 acres. Falmouth limits projects to 2 acres of clear cutting of trees, and the rest of the project must be on land that was cleared for 5 years. Spencer and Athol imposed 1-year moratoriums. West Bridgewater created a new zoning district. Oxford and Ware limited the number of large facilities to 15. We're way over that already. Whately has imposed a mitigation fee to be paid to the open space for any Chapter 61A lands. So this is not simply a Wareham problem. We need help from the town officials, from the state, even from the federal government. The Massachusetts has been working on their clean energy and climate plan for 2030, and that addresses some of these issues. The EEA and the Department of Energy Resources are leading their planning for ground-mounted solar developments to ensure the best land management practices to protect critical mass species and ecosystems. And Mass Clean Energy Center is working to identify market mechanism to incentivize alternative sightings. Those are the kind of things that we need to really consider. And I'm hoping that this bylaw can be adopted and we can take a pause and all work together to gather information and some of those resources from people that are in the industry, in government, and figure out how to go forward with this before we have lost way too much of our rural character, our forests, and our natural resources. So the Board of Selectmen has expressed willingness to review and update our solar bylaws and perhaps actually include all of the alternative energy options during 2021 and targeted fall town meeting to come back with a more sweeping changes. But the forest and related ecosystems have benefits that are critical in reducing our vulnerability to climate change and adapting to its impacts. These include toleration for extreme heat and precipitation, drought, and obviously air pollution. Wareham needs to be smarter about siting and consider the long-term impacts to our ecosystem and our public health. We deserve better than using 2014 guidance for 2021 problems. I would ask you to support this amendment. Thank you.
Nancy, I have a couple of questions.
Sure, George.
Why did you put a minimum size on?
Because according to the, yep.
The minimum's already in there.
Yeah, the minimum was already in there. Because anything less than 3 falls into a different category within the bylaw.
Because I have noticed a couple of small ground-mounted solar systems. The other thing I had was, you mentioned the rest of the bylaw wouldn't be affected. Canopy mounted projects, I think the bylaw reads, will be treated the same as large ground mounted solar. So I can't imagine a canopy over 3 acres, over 10 acres.
That's my point, is I can't imagine a canopy over 10 acres either. And if that's the case, then we can figure out how to, if there needs to be an exception made, or we just say, thank you very much. And we'll, maybe it, even the parking lots, there are divisions between them. So you count them as 2 or something. I don't know how to do that, but considering the fact that there are absolutely none in this town, I think that that's a chance that we can probably take.
And we just had a very encouraging plan come in front of us for a solar field on a cranberry bog. Would that come under the same parameters?
Exactly, because at this point, it's considered a large ground mounted. But again, if you take a look at most of the actual bogs, the parcels that they're on, I mean, a lot of them aren't that big as terms of 10 acres, but right now, I don't believe that that has actually made its way through Concom to be approved. And we don't know the impacts of that. Those are those sorts of things that right now are still being looked at. But
George, go ahead, Nancy.
No, I mean, I personally don't see a problem with that, other than taking a look and seeing what the view shed is from that in terms of the visual impacts. And that's another part of the conversation. I'm sorry, Richard.
Yeah, George, I don't want to step on you, Nancy, but I want to get some comments in as soon as I can.
Go for it.
For the solar proposal on North Carver Road in the bogs is grandfathered into the existing solar bylaws because their application was done ahead of any change. I don't have any questions, and I'll be upfront, transparent. I've worked very closely with Nancy on this project. And I want people to understand this is a big conflict for potential revenue to the town of Wareham if not managed correctly. Our town administrator, Mr. Sullivan, expressed his disappointment with this article at a recent WRA meeting. And his job is probably, in my mind, his number one job is to manage revenue for this town. So I can certainly understand why he would be disappointed, and I would expect nothing less. However, I think it's very important to understand that this proposal is being made as a firewall to slow things down. And the proposal that was made in my summary to the Board of Selectmen talked to the fact that the citizens group that had informally got together and came up with this original thought proposed that once this was in place, that work continue up to and including fall town meeting of 2021 to allow the proper time to understand all the impacts of solar farms in the town of Wareham, including things like elevated panels in bogs, to include exceptions for size limitation, for setback changes, for different situations. There's a lot of work that has to be done. And initially, I was very concerned that we'd try to ramrod through a final solar plan in the few weeks we had before Springtown meeting. And the concept of doing this in a two-step process: one, put up a firewall. Let's slow down. Let's take a step back. Let's figure out where we are, and let's go do the proper planning and research and work with the solar farm engineering teams, the property owners, the conservation groups, the town planners, the town administrators, the assessors department, whatever it takes to get all the input that we need to come up with a good comprehensive plan that can satisfy the majority of the people of Wareham. That's going to take some time. When we talked to the Board of Selectmen, it was mentioned, as Nancy indicated, that an alternative energy subcommittee would be formed via town meeting article. And I thought that was great. And I said, that's the perfect solution for step 2. Because if there's people in this town that are concerned about potential revenue from solar farms, step 2, they should be very, very motivated to execute step 2 if we can pull off step 1. So the second thing I want to talk to is the proposed recommended action that has been drafted for this planning board on page 5 of the draft report. In that draft report, it indicates that it is felt that this is an ineffectual bylaw because as we speak, people are submitting subdivision plans to grandfather themselves into the current laws. And due to that, it is suggested that we wait till the fall to do a more comprehensive one. And the misrepresentation there is that we're trying to shorten the window by implementing some restrictions as quickly as we can, and then take some time to 6 months later come up with a more comprehensive plan, which obviously will be more, I'll take that back, will be less restrictive than what we would have if this article were to pass. So there's no law that could be passed that is, quote, ineffectual, or that is effectual, because nothing's effective until the town meeting passes it and Attorney General approves it. The only question out there is, how quick can we do it? Can we do it in the spring, or can we do it in the fall? If we do it in the fall, it's a one-step process with an 6 to 8 month window. If we do it now, it's a 2-step process with a 2-month window between now and Attorney General approving, and then it's phase 2 to do this thing in a more comprehensive fashion. So I want people to read, my fellow planning board members, to read the proposal that's been drafted for us to consider and understand it completely. I think it's an effort to continue the revenue flow, and I think it's the wrong way that we should be moving. That's all I have, George.
Anything further from the board? This is a public hearing. I will ask for public comment if anyone cares to join us. And again, this is to make a recommendation to town meeting. Any recommendations from the board?
George, this is Richard. It would be my recommendation that this planning board fully endorse and support this article.
I would have to agree with Richard.
What?
Ms. Hayes, are you wishing to speak?
Yeah. Mr. Swanson, what you're proposing that it's accepted with, I thought you presented 2 options, the phase 1 and 2, or built into it that you wait till the fall to come up with the ramifications written into another adaptation of the proposal.
Well, I'm not sure I understood your question, but
What are you? Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted. What are you proposing is accepted right now?
What I'm proposing is what's accepted right now, which, and be very clear that this hold on one second, sorry. What's being proposed What's being proposed right now is what I consider step one in a two-phase process. This article does not outline what phase two is. Um, Phase one or step one, I'm sorry, I got those words intermingled there, would be to limit any new solar farm proposals to a 5-acre minimum on previously cleared land. Phase two would then be to take the time to do a much more comprehensive with a lot more input from a lot more interested parties and come up with what I would venture to guess would be a less restrictive solar bylaw that deals with a lot more of the nuances and one level down situations that need to be dealt with. The proposal that we're hearing from other town leadership is to just do a one-phase new solar bylaw and implement it in the fall. And I'm opposed to that. That leaves it open for the next 6 to 8 months until the fall town meeting article would be seen at town meeting, passed and approved by the Attorney General for developers to submit plans for new solar farms grandfathered into the existing law. If we could pull this off, we could shorten that window to less than 2 months, I believe. Did I answer your question?
Well, it expanded my understanding somewhat, but I'm concerned in the first part where you said getting people together to really explore the nuance and the ramifications and, as Nancy said, the unforeseen consequences that happen with things. But I'm concerned about proportions in that. I've just recently read how the utilities have a huge influence on laws, and they are really pushing against rooftop solar. I put in 3 rooftop solar systems because I think that working to try to lessen the consequences of a warming climate, which seems, boy, it's at 420 parts per million, and it seemed like it was just at 350. So I would like to throw in there, I think we need to be talking a lot more about that. But I would be concerned about the proportion of folks who are, I mean, we've got the Makepeace company likes them big, and they have a lot of influence in town. So I would be concerned about who that committee was and the proportionality of it. Is that?
I think you're getting a little beyond the scope of the article.
Well,
Right now, this is a citizen's petition.
and I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and Ms. Hayes, I fully understand and appreciate your comments, but that would be phase 2, and tonight we're talking only about phase 1.
okay, so who's going to negotiate phase 2 and who are the participants?
It's going to depend. It's going to depend if the Board of Selectmen puts together an alternative energy subcommittee. And if they don't, it will likely be a informal citizens committee to make a recommendation. It's really not defined right now. I'm still waiting to see the article to put the alternative energy subcommittee on the warrant. So it's yet to be determined.
Well, that concerns me. I would ask Nancy what your thought is about having 2 steps here. How are you reacting to this?
The intent always has been for 2 steps.
Okay.
So I think that Richard actually did a very good job of describing the intent of the original committee. And the citizenry needs to step up. We have information out there. We have resources through the state, through people like Mass Audubon. I'm hoping that once we get this through town meeting, that we can contact some of the developers who have been working with the landowners and get their input on exactly some of the things that they're facing. So this really does need to be an input from all of the concerned parties. And I understand your concern about it being one-sided, but I know it's not going to be.
No, I didn't
because-
think, excuse me, I didn't mean to imply it was going to be one-sided, but the proportionality is important.
Yeah.
So you're describing that
Yeah.
better.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Keep it, Richard, you made a motion, I believe.
I did make a motion that the planning board fully endorse and support this article.
And I second.
Before you guys close, can I make a comment if you don't mind?
Sure.
Zach Farkas here from Borrego.
Mhm.
Hey, Zach.
Thanks, guys. How you doing? Thanks for giving me just a quick moment. I know you guys want to move along here. Just, I think two comments. The first one being, should that committee come together in the future, I and Borrego would certainly volunteer to be a part of it. I can imagine I may be persona non grata right now, but I'm happy to at least provide the developer's perspective on some of these projects. The second comment is specific to the upcoming motion. It sounds like there's going to be a recommendation to endorse the bylaw change. The only thing I would ask is that it be made explicit that projects that have already received their approval be grandfathered under the existing bylaw. I don't think Ms. McHale's intent is to move the goalpost on us and kind of get our projects nullified. But unfortunately, the way Mass General law is written, and it's quite archaic, unfortunately, is that should this bylaw pass, our projects that have been approved over the past year would have to basically be nullified. In order for us to prevent that, this board can either specifically state that projects that have received approval are not subject to this new bylaw, or we have to file our subdivision plans. Now, obviously, we're preparing to file those plans, but it would certainly save Ken and Sonia a ton of headache and paperwork if you guys could make that specific consideration. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Zach, this is Richard. I'm very surprised to hear you say that because I have specifically asked questions about this situation. And I had been told that not only are you locked and loaded and unchangeable, but people such as the Cranberry Bog application up on North Carver Road are also locked in under the current bylaws and can't be forced to deal with the new ones. So
it would certainly stand to reason, but unfortunately, that's just not how the laws are written. In order for me to truly grandfather without any ambiguity at all, I'd have to pull my building permits or start construction. And, we just don't want to rush something like that. It's not obviously safe, and it's just not in the best interest of the project for us to build slowly for 5 years, as opposed to, just wait until we're ready and start. So unfortunately, that's not the case. I can totally imagine that folks could think that, but it's just not the case. So that's why I make the request.
George, can you provide any color there? Because
Well, I was under the same impression that you are, that just the fact that a plan has been filed would automatically grandfather it. It would kind of, never mind an approval.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say
I'd
it's just not accurate. I mean, perhaps check with Mr. Bowman, but I'm pretty sure he would agree with me.
Mr. Who?
Rich Bowman, the town attorney. But I mean, I guess if we're all on the same page, if the intent here is not to move the goalpost and nullify projects that have been approved or are currently undergoing the process, maybe it's six in one hand, half dozen in another, but maybe just stating it along with your recommendation for approval as written with the addition of, projects that have already applied under the special permit solar bylaw will be grandfathered under the bylaw in place. Something like that.
One of our usual conditions we put on an approval is a 2-year substantial completion. With multiple projects, you may need more than that.
Nope, I'm not asking for any time. I'm more just saying we'll be fine to work within the bounds of the special permits that have been issued, but I'm just trying to explain a very nuanced and unfortunately archaic form of real estate law here in Massachusetts that I'm aware. I'm only bringing this up because I'm sure, because I have to worry about it.
You must have been exposed to it.
I have. So
So
that's
Zach-
why we're,
So Zach, let me say this. This is only, what we're doing tonight is only a recommendation from the planning board to town meeting as to which direction we think the planning board think our citizens should vote.
Yep.
Anything we say in this isn't binding at all. To that end, I firmly believe that it's totally wrong that you could be impacted by a change that comes around to our bylaws after you've already been granted the permit. So, Mr. Chairman, I would be willing to modify my motion to include the phrase in there, and that the planning board recommends that all received applications and previously approved permits be held in good standing, or something to that effect.
At what date, Richard? As of the date of the town meeting?
As of the day of the implementation of this bylaw, if so passed.
thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Wow. I know that there are other people are working other avenues to try to slow down the 3 projects we've recently worked with you on. So those will still be ongoing, and that is an avenue they can pursue. But geez, I think we should. A lot of us on this planning board voted the way we did because the law is the law.
Totally. And that's why I'm not objecting to the bylaw in any means. I'm just asking for explicit protection. That's all. So thank you all very much.
Yep. Zach, this is Nancy. Just to let you know that we did ask those questions, and the understanding was that anything that had already been through the permitting process, as Richard said, would be grandfathered.
Totally. And I sympathize. I've been, doing this for 10 years. And the first time somebody told me, hey, Zach, you better get a subdivision plan in quickly to grandfather your project, I said, I'm already approved. I'm fine. And, I've got enough opinions from enough attorneys that tell me that unfortunately the law in Massachusetts does not mesh with reason right now. So I don't at all accuse anyone of trying to pull something on these projects, but I just bring it up because if that's not your intent, maybe it's just easier to be explicit.
And I will point out that at one of our site visits, Borrego representative, I'm not sure if it was you, Zach, did offer their assistance with us trying to fix our bylaw. So
I did. That was me. That's why I just wanted to restate it here at the public hearing that should you guys want Borrego's input, we're happy to provide it, but I
You were going to be my first call, Zach.
thank you.
Yep.
So I'm gonna withdraw my motion, George, and replace it with another one, if I may.
I was just going to ask you because I couldn't repeat that one to save my life.
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this one right, but I'm going to try. All right. So I recommend the planning board fully endorse and support Springtown Special Town Meeting Article 17 Solar Bylaw Zoning Bylaw Amendment, with the specific call out in that amendment that any permits or applications that have been received prior to the implementation of this new solar bylaw be considered valid and grandfathered. How's that sound?
I think we would probably have to make a motion to that effect on the floor to accomplish that. But
I think Zach has only asked us to include that in our recommendation.
Yeah, whether or not town meeting wants to, adopt the bylaw or some iteration, we've all sat through town meetings and know these things can go one direction or another, but it'd certainly be appreciated by me if when this board endorses it, you are explicit that your recommendation is that projects already begun or completed through the permitting process or grandfathered. So I think Mr. Swenson's certainly kind of checks the box in my book.
So I think my motion stands.
Yep. and my second stands.
This is where you say any discussion, George.
Can I have a
already
question,
done.
Richard? Richard, I have a question to your motion, if I may.
Ask the chairman, please, Nancy.
Oh, sorry. George,
That's
may
all
I
right.
have, I have a question about the motion. Could you read it back, please,
Uh,
one more time?
Richard, do you have it written down?
No, I don't, but I'll say it again.
Mm-hmm.
So my motion was that this planning board fully support and endorse special town meeting Article 17 solar bylaw zoning. Also, this planning board recommends that any permit or application received prior to this solar bylaw being implemented be held in good standing.
Okay. Thank you.
So a motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I would like to, Richard, I'm sorry, Mr.
I'm
Barrett.
sorry.
Yes,
George, we never closed the public hearing.
I realize that.
Okay. Because typically, Annie, we would close the public hearing and then do this motion in second and vote.
Is there something in particular, that something quickly you can let us know?
well, I wanted to know, I mean, when Mr. Swanson first said the amendment, it was if anything that had been received, and I wasn't clear on what that meant. I'd also like to hear what acreage is in the pipeline. I don't have a picture of what's been received, what's been approved, what has any discussion left. Are you all clear on that?
I don't think it has anything to do with this article.
I would say that's probably a good question for town meeting.
Okay. I think it does have things.
So with that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to recommend favorable action with the additional condition of already permitted or received applications?
Hey, George, I think you forgot something. Gonna close the public hearing first, bud.
Well, we made this motion first and left the public hearing open. I thought you'd be happy about that, Mike.
No.
We'll get this motion out of the way and then we'll close the hearing. How's that?
Okay.
So all in favor? Mike Baptiste,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Mike King,
Aye.
and I, unanimous. Now I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Richard, seconded by Mike Baptiste. All in favor? Mike?
Aye.
Mike Baptiste? Was that you?
Aye. Yep.
Richard?
Yes, aye.
Did I get you, Mike King?
Not yet. Aye.
And I, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Thank
Nancy.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Zach.
We'll be talking, Zach.
Please do. Don't hesitate.
The continued public hearings on the town meeting articles, how far did you get with these last week? Or
Oh, we dispatched all of these, but the WV1R.
so this is just a cut and paste on the agenda? Or
Isn't that accurate, Mike Baptiste?
We did 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Article 3. Section 3, we left that one for tonight. Move to moving regs. We were talking about moving those two.
Excuse me, Mr. Barrett. This is Brenda Ekstrom. Mine wasn't discussed last week. I had sent the paperwork to discuss it this week.
Yeah, that's number
Yeah, I
9
think
on the,
that's number 9.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Now, so you voted on 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
So 4, defining multifamily
We
dwellings.
did multifamily also. I think we used some of the verbiage that we had from Ahmad. I believe that's what it was. We went through that one. We voted on that one also.
So
we
the
stopped at
only
number,
ones-
my memory is, and I'm sorry, I'm not at home tonight. But we have number 7, 8, and 9 to finish. We stopped at number 6. We got hung up on number 7 because we didn't understand the difference between marijuana courier services and marijuana delivery establishments.
Right.
And I think on 8 and 9, we basically kind of ran out of time. And Brenda wanted to talk specifically to number 9.
Yes.
I must have skipped over number 8. What's 8?
Stormwater pollution prevention.
Oh,
And on that's on the draft report. That's on page 5. This is the FEMA map update. We don't have any choice on that one.
FEMA needs more money in the hell of science.
Yeah. Good.
Does that sum it up?
Yeah, kind of. So if I could make a recommendation, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that we go right to number 9 and let Brenda make her pitch.
That sounds good. Are you still there, Brenda?
I am still here. Thank you.
You have the floor.
Thank you. I don't know if you all got a copy of the PowerPoint that I had sent to Ken Buckland.
I have it.
Okay. In a nutshell.
Brenda, that's just one of them. I don't know if the other 3 have it.
Okay. Can Mike or Michael, George, anyone else?
No, I don't think I saw that.
Can
Okay.
you share your screen, Brenda?
Unfortunately, I can't. My iPad is broken and I have an old computer that doesn't have a thing. So
I can share
essentially,
mine.
okay, thank you.
Oh, you can do it, Ken? I mean, Rich, I was looking at Ken's name.
Thank you.
There it is.
Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it. Everyone else?
Yep.
Okay. As you know, in this town, we have a never-ending problem with affordable housing. George, you may remember this from years ago. I've tweaked it. But what our objective is, oh, you know what, you're gonna have to turn, oh, Richard's gonna have to flip it, won't go for me. Anyway,
You want to go to the next slide? Just say
Yeah.
next slide.
yeah, thank you. What the goal is, of course, as we all know, is to get 10% of our housing deed restricted affordable. And as you know, unfortunately, we're in the Boston market. The area median income for here is 98.5 for a family of 4. Affordable is considered 80% of that. So it's about $78,000. Next slide. Thank you, Richard. What my idea is rather than having things like what's on the right there, a 4-unit apartment building with 2 bedrooms, 2 3-bedrooms, 10 cars, all of that stuff, instead of having that put down the street from you where you have nothing to say about it, that instead people that have property that was joined in common ownership back when we changed zoning laws, you'll people in Swift Speech, in Onset, in Indian Mound, the Heights, Shangri-La, Kermesset, Wewianick, Rose Point, that had the 5,000 square foot lots, so 7,500 square foot lots, that those places can subdivide a piece of their land off and deed restrict it and make it an affordable unit. So if you go next slide. In a nutshell, what it does is that somebody who has the lot down the bottom left, that they could actually subdivide that because it was originally 2 lots, and then they can sell it and we can create an affordable house. Now, the beauty of this, and you can kind of flip through because I won't go through every one of them, it'll take forever, but the beauty of this is it's 100% of everything that's built is affordable versus the 20 to 25% that you get in a subdivision of a 40B, of a traditional 40B. So, and it has to fit specific criteria, which I have throughout the bylaw, which is 50 foot of frontage, 5,000 square foot lot, has to have been a lot that has already been on a pre-approved plan. So the planning board, say when it was going through Swift Beach Road in the 60s or whatever, whenever it was, those lots were 7,500 square feet. So if someone has like 15,000 square feet there, they can subdivide 7,500 square feet. So it will still complement the neighborhood because the majority of houses down there, excuse me, are on 7,500 square feet. And excuse me, if you want to flip it, Richard. This is kind of hard to see, but this is actually up in Indian Heights, actually, Gitche Gumi. But there's, you can see that these are the lot lines, the white ones. The one that has the 2 blue houses on it, even though it's 2 lots, that's one property. And if you flip to the next one, it will show like the, you know, on the bottom right, 5,000, 50 foot of frontage, 50 foot of frontage. The yellow is a 10,000, but the majority in the neighborhood are 50 feet. Next one. So those lots were 5,000. And what that one owner could do that had the 2 blue houses on it, they could subdivide that. And on the houses beside it, the houses varied in about $5,000 difference because one person had a 10,000 square foot lot instead of 5,000. So that person would save 5,000 on their taxes, which isn't a lot, but we would be able to get like a $200,000 house there. There's already services there, which is one of the things for Serped likes is smart growth, which is where you build where you already have town services where they currently exist. In these areas, we already have police patrols. We already have bus routes. We already have water lines, sewer lines. And in a lot of these neighborhoods, actually up until Wewianick, I believe, up or Briarwood, one or the other, but up most of these areas, they've already paid for the sewer lines because they used to do it, George, you might remember, they used to do it by linear footage. So if someone had 3 lots, so they had 15,000, 150 feet of frontage, and their neighbor had 50 feet of frontage, they paid 3 times the sewer as their neighbor did. So these lots already have sewer running by them. And in Wareham, as you know, as in most communities, when they started to decide that they were getting too much, what do you call it? To limit growth, they started to want some sprawl. So they increased the lot sizes. And a lot of people that had the multiple lots could have bought them for investment or to sell to family or whatever, but they lost that opportunity because they would have lost the grandfathering to build on them if they subdivided and sold them. So if you do the next slide. The way that this bylaw will help Wareham, as I said, is 100% of them will go towards affordable inventory. People will choose if they want to participate. So instead of having that, 10 unit, 20 unit, 30 unit, 150 unit development in your neighborhood, you'll add one house, and it'll be the neighbors, like you're making the decision that you'll have an affordable unit beside you. And as you guys know, these aren't low income, they're affordable. These things are going for $221,000 for a 2-bedroom, $257,000 for a 3-bedroom. So as far as money wise, and this is the one I presented to the finance committee. Down on 815 Main Street, there's a 40B. It has 49 units. When you divide what they pay in taxes or their valuation, it's $83,000 per unit. A 2-unit bungalow, the ones that I just showed you up on Gitchigumi, those ones are a 5,000 square foot lot. It's $190,000. So they're already paying more than twice as much in taxes. And so for every single family we can get out there within a community, within a neighborhood, we're going to increase the tax base more than we would if it was an apartment. Next one. Richard, I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. And this just kind of, I don't have to go through the whole thing, but the calculation. When you have the 2 houses on the 15,000 square foot lots, that same example, 386,000 is the total evaluation. If you divide that lot and add a small little 2-family, that one is 221,900. It'll probably be assessed right at that because it's going to be brand new with all the, the best stuff. It's not depreciated over years. So we're going to get over $2,400 more in tax revenue for the same amount of the same area of land. You can look at those if you want. The next one is that what happens when we're, this came out terrible. I'm sorry. What happens if we're with the 130? That's what supposedly we have right now. And in theory, I guess they just did a 40B that's supposed to solve that. Thank you. We have to remember, though, that it only solves it. We're still running off the 2010 census numbers. So the 130 units that we need are based off of 2010. So, and the apartment complex that put in that's supposed to satisfy that, they're not counted until they're completed. So the longer these things take, the more we're still at the mercy of developers. But if we had 130 houses built under this program, it would be without the addition of one road, wouldn't expand into open space, wouldn't change the character of a neighborhood, and it wouldn't burden an area.
Brenda, can I ask
Absolutely.
a question?
Sure.
All right. I'm struggling a little bit, and I want to say back to you first of all what I've heard a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
And I have looked at the zoning, and I've looked at the zoning that we have in our current bylaws around existing small lots.
Yep.
And there's 5,000 square foot lots. There's, I think, 10,000 square foot lots, 15,000 square foot lots.
7,500. Yep.
And different dimension and density standards for those, quote, existing lots.
Correct.
That were put out of existence in terms of new ones when the when the 30,000 square foot minimum came into effect, right?
Correct. Yep.
So what I'm hearing you saying is if a person has 15,000 square feet, for example, with one house on it, let's let him divide it into two, 7,500 square foot, build a new house on the other half, and build it in such a way that it qualifies for affordable. Am I hearing this correctly?
Not quite. If he has three lots,
No, let's say he has one lot that's 15,000 and you want to divide it into two
You'd have to-
7,500s.
if the original plan were 5,000 square foot lots, they would have to be divided into 5,000 square foot lots.
Okay, that's
Because
fine.
it would complement the rest of the neighborhood. And
Understood.
it's on an approved plan. Okay, go
So
ahead.
so now he could build two houses there, right?
Yep.
So I'm with you there. What I don't understand is why isn't his existing house considered affordable?
Well, because in order to qualify for affordable, you have to meet certain criteria. Right now, you have people in all of those neighborhoods and areas in town that I named that are on those size lots. And if they could divide it, their house is really just the same as most of their neighbors. So his wouldn't be affordable. His would still be the same as it always was.
So that tells me that the new houses that would go in would be not equivalent to the existing neighborhood. They would be of a lesser value.
Absolutely not. If you look at, as I said, the example that I used, Gitchigumi, that's just because I was looking around for it once. At Gitchigumi, those two houses, one is on 5,000 square feet, one is on 10,000, but they're just both 2-bedroom bungalows. The assessed value on the 5,000 feet is 189,000.
Yeah.
The one on the 10,000 feet is 197,000, I think.
Right.
So
And the third house that would be built on the newly created 5,000 would be 221,000.
Correct, but it's affordable.
So
And that's
what I'm struggling with is why didn't the 189 and the 199 qualify for affordable if the 221 does?
Because the 189 and the 199 were bought at market rate while they were market rate. You have to put a deed restriction on the property to make it affordable. Those other properties, that's just like, I don't know where you live, but wherever you live, you have a lovely house. You may have spent $300,000 on your house. And the value of your house may go up to $400,000. These small bungalows, they probably bought them for $60,000 way back when. And now the value is at 189, 190. But to build an affordable right now, if I had land and I went to go build a subdivision and I wanted to make it affordable so I could bypass local zoning, which is what you're allowed to do, I could I'll make it easy for numbers. I would build 12 market rate. I would build 12 houses. 9 of them would be market rate, which would sell at the $300,000 market. The other ones would have to sell at the 221 or the 257, depending on the number of bedrooms. So what
There would have to be a deed restriction on the new properties.
On just those 3 new properties, on the 3 new houses.
Could I put a deed restrict, if I'm the owner of the house in our previous example for 189, can I go put a deed restriction on my house and classify it affordable?
You could, but you can't, but you'd still have to do it to the new one too. And if
Okay.
you did it and you didn't qualify for affordable, it wouldn't count until somebody that owned it was in there.
I got it. I got it.
And and the big problem, and this is what I'm trying to solve, is that example I just gave you with the 12 houses, which is kind of going into this next one. All right, we'll go back to this. At 130 houses, we would have to build 520 units to get 130 affordable under 40B. So when we do that, now we get hit up. That's fine for now. But when the next counting goes around, we've got 390 more market units that we've got to come up with affordable. So we do it again. So we hit up that 25%. We build 156 units to hit the 39. And you keep going and going. And over time, just to hit the 130 from the 2010 census, you're up to like the 2060 census, and you have to build 755 just to satisfy that initial one.
Can I ask a
And-
question?
Sure.
Is there anything in the affordable housing that would prevent us from not only deed restricting the home as affordable, but age restrict, like 55 and older?
There's nothing to do that, but I will tell you that actually the next part, which is section 840, kind of addresses that. There's nothing to deed restrict. I mean, that we could increase if the age, and I do understand you have kids, you don't want a bunch of kids in here.
Well, it's not a matter of wanting a bunch of kids. I love kids.
Well, I do too. I have 4.
But your example shows how by doing this, the one example was we were adding $2,400 and change to the tax revenue for the town.
Yes.
You put one child in that house and the town went backwards by 20 grand.
Correct. But if we don't do something like this, what's going to happen is we're going to have another 150 unit development.
I'm not arguing that fact.
Oh, no.
I'm with you 100% on controlling the way the affordable housing is addressed in town. But couldn't you kill 2 birds with 1 stone? We're always looking for affordable housing, and we're always looking for ways to take care of the senior population in town. Wouldn't this kind of address both problems?
It could, but then you're going to have a senior that can afford a $220,000 house. And if you're a senior on fixed income, you can't afford that.
Yeah,
Not all seniors are on fixed income.
senior housing is kind of a misnomer, Mike.
Yeah.
Usually they have to sell an asset to come here, and that,
I'm not talking about deeding it as senior housing. I'm saying if we could find a mechanism that would allow her to do what she's doing by creating these small, affordable bungalow style homes and age restricting it so that no one under 55 is permitted to own it or live there, whatever the case might be. Now you're addressing the affordable housing problem, and you're also addressing, you're protecting the town against bringing in more need for resources for children attending the school system, which is the biggest drain on our budget.
Well, and Mike, I agree with you there, except for right now Wareham is one of the oldest towns age-wise in the entire state. Our median age is higher than, I believe it's the highest in Plymouth County, and I believe it's one of the highest in the state. We're going to age ourselves out. So while I understand you don't want a bunch of kids in here, like you don't want, every house to have 5 or 6 kids. That's why I think that if you're making these, smaller 2-bedroom, you might have a couple kids in it. If that, and I understand that does peek into the schools, but we have houses, as I said, I said at town meeting the other day, but the places where you can build the 3-acre, $800,000 homes, most of those don't have any kids in them. So they're the ones that are paying to support our schools. These little ones, these are for, working people. These are people that don't make 200, 300, 400,000. And I think there's a lot of things that the town can do as far as the schools, because we've lost over 20% of our students in the past decade from school choice and everything else. So we don't have the quality there. And yet our budget goes up 5% every year.
Well, that's just the harsh reality of education. The budget's always going to go up. You're not going to.
Not if you lose 20% of your kids.
Your infrastructure is still in place. Your teachers' union is still in place. That's never going to change. If you think it is, I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Well,
It was merely a suggestion that if we could incorporate a way to control the amount of children entering these homes, you can kill two birds with one stone. You can put affordable housing on the books, and you can just control the amount of exposure to taxes needed to educate multiple. A small starter home is typically going to have one or two children in it. That's what small families are all about. So if you put two children in each of those 130 homes, now you're talking 260 new kids in the school system at whatever the number is. I heard an astronomical amount at town meeting, which I don't completely buy into, but even at $10,000 a kid, now you're talking $250,000 that you just added to the drain.
I agree, but I also know that we're going to be doing that anyway when you build the big developments. If you look at 815 Main Street, they have a bus of their own because there's so many kids there. So, all right. But put it this way, I don't have it in this bylaw. If this bylaw passes, I would be prepared to come back and add to this bylaw in the fall to do something, because I'd have to, off the top of my head, I don't know what DHCD would allow us to do, because we're already thwarting, is that the word? We're already thwarting the big developers. So I don't know, like, what kind of a limit they let us do on this.
Brenda, this is Richard. Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
So as I'm starting to understand this better, I certainly understand your motivation and what your end goal is. The thing I'm struggling with the most is this is reinstituting 5,000 square foot lots. And I think that from a selling perspective, from selling this concept in this article perspective, that's your biggest hurdle. This town made a very, very conscientious effort to go to 30,000 square foot lots to, as you would acknowledge, to stop the sprawl, if you will.
Correct.
Go ahead. So, okay. I mean, this is how I'm reacting, and this is how what I'm worried about in terms of selling the concept.
Correct. Okay. And I understand that because I have heard that. However, let's go, for example, like up on Main Street, up Galt Road area. Those are 1 acre. That's 1 acre zoning, R40. You can't build a 5,000 square foot lot there, because when that plan was approved, they were 40,000 square foot lots. So you can't take, like, if I have a 30,000 square foot lot and I'm in all my neighbors are 30,000, I can't take 5,000 off the side of mine. It can only be in areas that complement what's already there.
Got it. I got it.
Okay.
So the only place you're going to allow an incremental 5,000 or 7,500 or 10,000 square foot lot is in a neighborhood that already has.
Correct.
And
Correct.
They will only go in on what is now empty lots.
Vacant lots, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so then can you go to the next one, Richard?
I can.
Thank you. Okay, this is like, well, one of your concern was the larger lot, but some people with the smaller ones, their concerns are, oh, well, it'll feel crowded. Well, excuse me, B and D can be built right now by right without going in front of zoning, without going in front of zoning, without notifying the neighbors. Both B and D can be built right now by right in a neighborhood of 5,000 square foot homes. As a matter of fact, B up on Choctaw, in Indian Heights, there's a house that the little house is now just the entryway because they built this monstrosity behind it with a garage. So so a vacant lot beside people, it's not your open space. Someone can always do it. And Richard, before you walk away, we just do one more because I'll get to the other ones too.
Hey, I'm listening to everything. I'm just walking around the corner.
Okay. Now the other one, Mike, Mr. King, I'm sorry, I don't know you. I should have called you that to begin with. Sorry.
Mike is fine.
This here is one of the things with seniors. As you know, multi-generationals used to live together. And in the last couple of recessions, families have been moving back. And I used to be, I don't know if you know, I was a selectman for 6 years, and I was the liaison to zoning. And the previous zoning committee, I don't know about this one, but the previous zoning board used to require that if you had an in-law apartment, they would put on the deed restriction, granting the variance for it. They would put on that if the person that you were having, if there was no longer an in-law family member living there, you would have to knock it down and make it back into part of your house because we don't allow them. Well, what I say is that we should allow them, but only the same way, if you flip it, Richard, the same way that allowing them to be deed restricted, not the house, the apartment in the house. And what it would do is people that have them, older people that are finding it hard to make ends meet, you know, they could either put a couple walls up in their house and make a small apartment. It could be a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, depending upon what the size, or they could add on if they have a little money. And then what this would do is we would deed restrict those. Now, currently right now, according to our bylaws, anyone in the town can rent up to 2 bedrooms out to lodgers. And so I don't really think the burden of an in-law setup would be that much different, because it would still be, you know, it's still more people in the house than originally were. And again, because the house, because it already has all the systems set up and everything, these people, like, I think I have if you want to do the next next page, it has the numbers. These are actually like, it's the zoning bylaw on the left-hand side. And then what type of, you know, what you'd be doing, what you could do. The percentage of the median income to qualify for that particular thing, and how much it would actually cost. Or I mean, actually either cost someone or benefit someone. And like in 840, the 840 group, which would be in-laws, if someone just took, you know, a master bedroom and bath and changed the bedroom into an efficiency, they could rent that out, 50% of the AMI for a studio, according to the DHCD, is $785. So $785, in my opinion, is pretty good for someone who is having a tough time. They're property rich and cash poor, and they could build, you know, do that, and that would be counted as affordable. So it isn't necessarily, we don't need 130 houses. We need 130 of all of these things, any of them total. And keep in mind, as I said before, that only gets you up to the 2010 census. The 2020 was delayed, if you remember, because of the goings on in Washington. So we're still waiting for the 220 census. And if we get in, if the 220 census comes in and tells us that we need, another 60 units or something, you're talking 240, 250 units being built under traditional 40B, whereas we can do the 60 under this as in-law apartments or houses.
Want to go to the next slide?
Yeah, please, thank you.
I'm right here.
Okay, and this is what I was just saying, is that the federal census comes, their affordable is every 10 years. DHCD updates our affordable units that we need every 2 years. So if we can implement it now, we could fulfill the 220, the 2010 census very easily, hopefully within the next 6 months to a year. I'm optimistic, but once we did, and the 2020 came, now we need 50 or 60 more. We build those, and what I wrote into the bylaws is that they sunset. So once these are built, you can't use this anymore. So people aren't going to be able to take advantage of this, and keep building and building. It sunsets. And then if we can satisfy the 2021 census, we could stave off all 40B development until 2030. And when we get 2030 numbers, if this is successful and the town so chooses, this will kick back in. And then as soon as we do it, it shuts back down. So it would be implement for full, sunset, repeated every 10 years. You can do the next slide. I think that's just kind of a summary. Yeah, so this will meet the 10% affordable quota. It'll help people who are property rich but cash poor. It'll minimize the impact on the resources. It'll expand tax revenues without eliminating open space. It will eliminate illegal apartments. So that's another thing. In the apartment one, I know a couple people that have illegal apartments. I won't say who, but because they have an illegal apartment, it isn't being inspected by the Board of Health. They're not, God forbid. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember in Quincy when there was a fire and there was a family in the basement. It was an illegal apartment. They died. It was about probably 10 years ago. People that have illegal apartments, we give them an amnesty to come forward. Hey, if you deed restricted as affordable, we're not going to penalize you. We're not going to punish you. But we get that. So we get those illegal apartments. We get them on the assessor's records and the Board of Health, which brings in more money. And then it'll provide truly affordable housing for people who need it. And it will yield the gentrification, because what's happening in some of these neighborhoods is people are coming in, and I understand, especially right now, because the market is so crazy, but people are coming in and they're buying. There was one right down on Union Ave in Onset. They wanted, I think it was $200,000 for it. I went and looked at it because I wanted to see what was out there. And it was gutted. It was a mess. And I think it ended up going for like 300 and something. And the people are working on it now. So that house, it might be beautiful and we might have great revenues from it. But what it does is it gets other people where they can't afford to move into the area or stay in the area. And we have such a diverse community of, in the history, that I would hate to see that happen. So anyway, any other questions?
I'll make a comment, Brenda.
Okay.
Well, I do have a question. Have you been in front of the ZBA with this?
No, I have not.
Okay. The only reason I ask is that 40B is their purview, And I was just wondering if they had any input on it. What I will say to you is this. First of all, thank you for all your work. I think this is, I know this is a tremendous amount of work, and I know you're passionate about it, and I appreciate that. Secondly, this is a very comprehensive bill. Is this a citizen's petition, or is this something that you
This
just
is a
took to
citizen's
the?
petition.
All right, it's a citizen's petition. It's hard to understand for most people, including members of this board, I being number one on that list.
I'm sorry.
But no. You've done a really good job of getting me much more educated tonight, go through our dialogue. But I think you're trying to tackle 2 or 3 different elements of zoning or land use here, all in one bill. And it may make, to me, it makes sense to break them up a little bit onto the smaller lot sizes, the in-law apartments, that may be it, just those two. I'm sorry, I'm not as.
No,
verbose in this.
you know, Richard, actually, I agree with you. What I did is I sent these in, and the new Board of Selectmen and new, well, not new anymore, but the Board of Selectmen, the moderator, they have a new way to do it. You have to have a certain type of letterhead and write stuff on it. So when I passed them in on the last day, and they said, "Oh, you need this paperwork." So I did all the paperwork, but I would be happy to divide the question, because I think I agree with you. If I had the time to do this, this would be Article 26 and Article 27. And one would be to put in 830, and one would be to put in 840. And, so the houses would be 830 and the apartments would be 840. I mean, the in-laws would be 840.
I'll be honest with you, I'm strongly leaning toward putting this out for further study and dealing with it in the fall, where it's more segregated and broken down into specific areas that people will have an easier time understanding. This is very, very comprehensive change.
But it's really not. But I know, I understand what you mean. And just so you know, I have not been in front of zoning with this. Like I said, as I was a selectman, I was the liaison to zoning for 6 years. So I sat in their meetings for 6 years. I was also the liaison to conservation and sat there for 6 years. But I was also a zoning administrator in another town. So, or zoning aide technically in another town. So I am familiar with zoning, and I'm definitely familiar with the 40B. I do understand it is a complicated issue, but I'm just afraid that we have been putting these solutions off for over a decade now.
So what I'm really worried about is that you're an expert in this stuff, and most people, 99% of them, I'll estimate, aren't. And I think it'll have a hard time at town meeting. And if it does, then there's a 2-year gap, is my understanding, before it can come back. I want to help you get this through. I want to get to 10% so badly. I want people in the villages to have, I think your phrase of land rich and cash poor is very appropriate. I don't want to see this fail due to, not being able to communicate the benefits properly and it's so hard to do.
Yeah. Well, and that was the one thing that I mean, like, this is not the presentation I would give to town meeting, but I started to work on that. And then I realized, wait a minute, with the pandemic, we're going to be outside. I don't have PowerPoint. So you're right. It's even more difficult with that, but I'm working on a handout, but, and I would ask you if, and I certainly agree with further, I certainly agree, or I certainly understand why you would want to do further study. I would not be happy with it, but I would certainly understand it, and I would do everything I could in my power to go work through the next 6 months to get it on, to go on the next one.
So- Last comment I'll make, and this is, for you and for the planning board, my colleagues on the planning board, is that by reading our planning director's proposed report, he is suggesting that on page 4, that this be postponed for further study. And the reason I bring this up now, Brenda, is I'm curious as to what feedback you've got from the Board of Selectmen, from the Finance Committee. Are people lining up behind this? Am I overthinking it? Am I being too worried?
No, I don't think you're overthinking it. The Finance Committee, I will find out tomorrow. They're going to vote tomorrow on it, I guess. But there were 2 members that didn't think anyone would do it because they said you can't make enough money on the houses. Well, under affordable housing, you can only make 20% profit. And if you're a builder, like I look at it this way, if I'm a contractor and I can keep my 3 or 4 guys in work, paid work for 3 or 4 months to build a house, and at the end of it, they've worked for 4 months with pay. And at the end of it, I can sell that house and walk away with an extra $30,000 in my pocket as my profits. I'm a darn happy little contractor around here. I do that 2 or 3 times a year. I'm making almost $100,000 in my profit. How much could that do for the small developers around here? I mean, the small contractors and developers that never get a chance to touch anything. So I disagreed with him on that, and I've gotten good feedback from a couple of contractors that I've talked to. But as far as the, what did you just say? I'm sorry.
Oh, the Board of Selectmen?
Oh, the Board of Selectmen, they invited me. I went, I sat through the meeting, and they didn't have me on their agenda. So they said they would be inviting me back. I have not gotten invited back yet. And, but the other people on the Finance Committee, they were very, very positive. I'm hoping that I get at least, how many members are on there? 8, I think?
9.
9. I'm hoping I get like a 5 or a 6-3 vote. So I don't know, or maybe hopefully 7-2, because there were only 2 that kind of voiced negative, and they were only negative because they were saying they didn't think people would do it.
I'm really not interested if your business model is successful. I'm really more interested as if it's legal and at the end of the day has a net positive without any net negative risk.
That's what Tom Worthen on the Finance Committee, he was very excited about that idea.
All right, I'm done, George.
I mean, it does recognize infill, which has long been overlooked. The basic issue that I see is some of these neighborhoods, if you're talking a 5,000 square foot lot here and one over there, wouldn't be noticed. But if you started doing whole streets in it, which you could do, one of the examples you gave was Indian Mountain Beach, there's still a couple of large tracts in there with paper streets that could all of a sudden become a hideaway village.
No, well, it couldn't, George. I'm sorry if you don't mind, honey. It couldn't, because you have to be living on the property. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about, how is it, Cohasset? I don't know. I know the one you're talking about. And people have built right almost across it and everything.
Well, once you've subdivided it, you're no longer living on it.
No. But in order to subdivide it, it needs to be part of. These pieces had to be conjoined in common ownership. Like, that's one of the conditions. They had to have been separate lots, but conjoined in common ownership by by a previous zoning requirement. Those paper streets, those ones aren't, wouldn't
So-
qualify.
So if I have a 10,000 square foot lot, I can have two houses. But
Well,
the
you
guy,
have your own,
the
you
guy
have your
next
own.
door that only has a 5,000 can't have anything?
They can do an in-law apartment if they need the money.
You know, I understand. What gets me is there are already single-family homes in this town that go for less than the affordable rate. And they don't count.
I know, but George, they don't count. Listen, I know someone that
It's just the
Oh.
fraudulence of 40B.
exactly, and it's because we're in the Boston market. That's the worst part, but we can't get out of it. We were trying to get out of it back when Barney Frank was our congressman because it's it's the federal delineations. And we even had Barney working on it with HUD and he never came through. So I don't know, like, that's above my pay grade to know exactly who or what would have to get to. But, we've been trying that for 20, 30 years. And we can't get out of the Boston market. So that's why I'm thinking, if we make it so that we can build, construct, or modify our houses right now so that we can hit that 10%, then we don't have to worry about what they're going to do in where the casino didn't go. Oh, we're not going to worry about that stuff because we have control over what gets built in our towns now, in our town.
The other thing I see, and granted, there's a lot of good in what you've proposed, is just the practicality. If I had an in-law apartment that was either illegal or no longer used, why would I devalue my property by putting a deed restriction on it?
Oh, it's not a deed restriction on the whole house. It's just
Yeah,
a
it
deed.
is. It's going on one deed.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, the deed restriction, what it says, it would say that the apartment, if the apartment is to go out to rent, it would have to go into the DHCD lottery because it is deed restricted as affordable. Now, if you wanted, your cousin to live there for free, fine, but it's still counted on our totals. And if you decided, if I bought the house and I said, well, I don't want, I shouldn't say that. When I buy the house, I would know, well, my house is worth this much, but if I rent that out, these are the limits, 700, 900, 1400, whichever one satisfies that affordable. I mean, satisfies the in-law. So you're still going to get a better value on your house than the neighbor because the neighbor doesn't have an in-law. You have an in-law that's actually an income producing thing. And if you go back, well, I don't know if you got my papers or not, but on that chart, it will show you. If it's a studio, it's this much, but it's $700 to $1,400.
Brenda, are you hearing the level of,
Yeah, I am.
as we peel the onion back here?
Yep. But yeah, can you at least give me credit that I have answers for all of it?
I absolutely can.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And I'm just struggling with how to make sure that people are comfortable. One of my biggest fears about zoning changes is in the town meetings I go to is someone will stand up and hand a slip of paper up to the moderator with a proposed amendment to a zoning article that has gone through countless discussions, presentations, meetings, debates, negotiations to come up with a final product with all the answers. And then someone says, no, I want to change this one piece. And that one piece gets passed, totally changes the context of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And then we're all messed up.
Mhm.
And what do you, are you comfortable? Let me just ask you straight out. Are you comfortable going to town meeting and being able to educate people between now and town meeting?
Well,
On-
I have talked to a couple of people. One person offered to do a Zoom, like to put it in the paper and then do a Zoom meeting like this, but with me being able to be seen, and answer it. And then, I've also, I know that with, and protocols or whatever, but I'm also trying to, you know, I've sent emails out to people. I'm answering questions like that. You know, I don't want to say this because then it looks like I'm ready for failure because I really want to see it go through. But what I would like to do is go present it to town meeting, answer questions, maybe even divide the question, so we could have it in two parts. And maybe if we see the housing one, 8:30, if we see that starting to go down in flames, then someone, get up and say, I move for further study. And then that would save that one. And then we could go into the in-law one and see if that, but I think we need to start, I shouldn't even say start, I think we need to accomplish the affordable housing because one of the things, with the NODOS thing, Nazi got up at the end of the town meeting and Nazi said that, oh, we could have 600 houses built in there. Well, technically, if they did a 40B, yeah, and we needed 150 houses, technically they could apply for 600 houses in there. And Mike's fear, Mr. King, his fear would be seen right, 100% would have 600 houses with a bunch of kids in them. So that is terrifying. And so that's why I think that we have to get moving on it. And this is something that it will solve it. So, I mean, if I have to go to town meeting and, you kind of tell the crowd's turning or something, then yeah, move it to further study or subdivide the question or something like that. Because I'd rather at least try it and then kind of cut out of it than try it and lose it.
I think maybe a little something on how it would be executed because there's been instances before where property changed hands and never got the deed restriction put on it because nobody was minding the store. So, and
we
the
should-
fact that if you do sell, I think you have 90 days to sell it through the lottery process, and after that, you can go market rate.
Well, you can request to go market rate,
Yeah,
but
I appreciate what you're doing because it, a lot of it has merit, but I think we need to.
George, I think we should invite the public to comment before we move on any further.
Yeah, I was just looking to see if anybody was raising their hands. I don't see anybody. Is there anyone out there that wishes to comment on this proposal?
come on, Claire, you must have something to say. No. Well, Nancy McKay, I got a thumbs up from her.
Yeah,
All right, so.
I would actually raise hand.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead, Nancy.
I just wanted to say and commend Brenda for all of her hard work on this. This is absolutely amazing. And this town has struggled with 40B since I can remember.
Mhm.
And I've only been here for 30 years. That I can't imagine how involved this will be, but the concept is great. I think that George brought up a really good point about so many paper streets still in existence. And I would comment that that is the biggest thing that would be a negative in my mind. But the in-law apartment thing is, I think, brilliant. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I just actually, Nancy, when she said that about the paper streets, George, this is nothing about the paper streets. Right now, if they came in and owned it, they could come in and they could build on 5,000 square foot lots on those paper streets. 25% of them would be affordable. 75 would be market rate and would still be on the hook to fill in that other 75%. They couldn't, if they came in, God forbid they came in, and if they manipulated the law or argued successfully, no developer would do it because no big developer wants to come in and build tiny little houses with tiny little margins. But they would do a traditional 40B. So if those paper streets are still out there, believe me, developers are looking at them to do a
That's probably the
traditional.
wrong description for Indian Mountain Beach, but they are very, in some sections, it's one lane.
Yeah, oh, no, I know, yeah.
The, and 40B is still an area need. You could get to your 10% and they'd still approve a project, so. Because
George, I think,
So they pulled that,
I think we beat this one to death.
Okay.
I would like to go over it again, but I'm not tonight, but there was some things you mentioned there that.
What's our timeline on submitting our report? Do we have to make a statement tonight?
No, I don't believe so, because our report is given verbally at the town meeting.
So I would make a motion, I don't know if that's appropriate, but I would make a motion that in regard to number 9 on our continued public hearing agenda, to amend Article 8 to add a local initiative program for affordable housing, which is annual town meeting Article 26, that we continue that to our next meeting to allow planning board members to do further research before making a decision as to their support or non-support.
oh, Mike, your microphone's not on.
Michael, you're mute.
I know, I've been fighting coughing fits all night. These damn allergies are killing me. Yes, I would second that, Richard.
Question for Brenda, is this initiative, does that give us any relief through DHCD or anyone, just the fact that we've taken a step like this?
Well, I don't know what the current housing plan looks like. It would have given us relief under the previous one, and I'm sure they're very similar. You know, you know how if you hit so many in a year or whatever, but you mean just designing it? No, this is just not a waste, but
Just
you know.
taking the initiative to you.
Hey,
doesn't
no,
get
yeah,
us-
it's just me, George, you know.
But I just wondered if that got us any points.
No, brownie points, maybe. We'll see. I'll call Charlie Baker, see if I can get a couple. But Mr. Buckland, are you there?
No, he's not with us.
Oh, all right, just because I saw his name there. Because I sent him that the presentation and that I sent him the bylaw again. So, and do you guys all have my phone number? It should be on it. I'm not sure, but if not, I can give you my phone number. And if any of you just want to call me with any questions after you read it, review it, you know, and I can come back if you want me to.
Mhm.
I'd like your number.
Okay, it's 508.
Do you want to give it out on an open meeting?
Of course I do. Everyone has it anyway. 508-566-5124.
Oh, and to be to be fair, mine's 508-208-1242.
208, I'm sorry, 1242?
508-208-1242.
42. Thank you very much.
And I won't answer any phone call that doesn't have caller ID.
Nope, I keep my name out there so people, when they know it's me, they can ignore it.
All right, motion on the floor to
Continue.
next meeting, you said,
Mm-hmm.
which is, are we next Monday also? Or is that town meeting? No, it's not town meeting. Is it?
Town meeting they're doing on May 8th. Claire put it out to Saturday, the 8th, but the
Isn't,
26th was supposed to be town meeting.
isn't,
I have planning board for next Monday on the 26th, being the fourth Monday in April.
yeah, why are we here tonight? Just to finish up these hearings?
We had to get the solar bylaw one in with 2 weeks notice.
Oh, for special?
Yep.
I wasn't here last week, so you had to bring me up to speed. All right, so a motion's been made and seconded to continue to
The 26th.
the 26th. Any discussion? All in favor? Mike King,
I,
Mike Baptiste,
Aye.
Richard,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
are you in favor?
Yeah, sorry. Aye.
And I, me. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
we'll
you,
see you
Brenda.
next week. Thank you.
All right, so that takes care of 8 for the time being.
George, if I can, just a little housekeeping. We do have to go back to number 1, the Wareham Village Subdistrict WV1-R, to make a determination as to our recommendation about a super majority or simple majority. I'm pretty sure we did not address that last week. We only voted on our support or non-support. Because it's a zoning with housing and mixed use and all that other stuff. The planning board needs to make a recommendation there, so let's not forget to do that.
The, did Ken talk about the amendment that was proposed when this came around the first time, or was there any discussion on that?
I'm not aware of any amendment.
Okay. And reading through that bylaw again, that amendment to 40A, does that mean where this includes housing and has a potential for transportation, public transportation, that this takes a simple majority?
Ken distributed a checklist on that and recommends that it does. What am I doing? But we got to close out on before we do that, I really think we should go back to number 8 on the agenda for the stormwater pollution, the FEMA map thing. And that will close out our agenda on continued public hearings.
All right, did we move that? We got,
We got 7 and 8.
yeah, 7 is to limit marijuana delivery. Is that a license or? Do Did you take that up at all in discussion last week?
We did discuss that. There was some question about the delivery, how it was, how it was really crafted. Was it a delivery service or not? I don't think we got a lot accomplished on it because we weren't quite sure how to address that.
Is this, who brought this forward? Is this a citizen petition or is this a,
No, from what I understand, this is a new law crafted by the state to carve out opportunities for home delivery.
is it similar to the retail license? Each town's allowed to decide how many they have?
Yes,
Whether they do percentage of liquor license or,
we had to make we had to recommend how many licenses that we wanted. I think we were all on the same page of there's 3 dispensaries and 3 licenses would be adequate. If we went with more than that, now you got competition.
Well, I think that information that Ken sent out too also indicated that regardless of where the licensee is situated, whether in town or out of town,
Right.
you can't stop out of town companies from delivering into town. It's just the way it is. We can't do anything about it. So we could set the license requirement at 3, but that's not going to stop someone from setting up shop in Carver and delivering into Wareham. And I think
George, I had a little bit different take on it. Wasn't our discussion around the fact that a manufacturer of marijuana products who was not a retail, commercial retail establishment could provide delivery service directly from their manufacturing location, talk Organic Brands or Aspen Blue over up at the Steel Building in Tremont. Could they get a license or a permit to have a delivery service for their product and effectively creating a 4th, 5th, or 6th, I'll just call it a retail establishment, as opposed to the existing 3 licenses that are already in town. There's only one up and operational, and that's in the village. Having DoorDash for pot, and that would make 3 retail outlets, each with their own delivery service, and then 3 more delivery services. That's where I had the confusion last week.
well, I think, Richard, the one that has the wholesale operation with the delivery service feature, that's the one that's carved out for minority opportunities. Then you have a delivery service component completely devoid of that has no restrictions. It can be 3, there can be 10, and they can be in any town. They all are still going to be able to deliver into Wareham. We can't stop it. And the concern that I think Jim Manise brought up was if we restrict the number of licenses in town and we do drive, the business to another town and they still deliver to residents in Wareham, we're missing out on the revenue.
But at the same time, though, we don't want to undercut our existing retail operations that we already have.
Right. We don't want to encourage people to come from the outside because we don't see our 3%.
Right.
That's the whole thing is the cash.
So
I would say we can't stop the wholesale one. We're not going to be able to stop that. But if we could limit that type of operation to 1, and then allow the 3 existing retail shops to have an opportunity for their own delivery service, that protects them by having the same opportunity as the wholesale operation. And then with 4 potential delivery services in the town of Wareham, is there really enough business to go around to attract businesses from outside of Wareham?
Well, the way I see it, if you're a wholesaler, you're a wholesaler. You're not, you shouldn't be doing home delivery. You need to deliver to a retail outlet. That's a different story.
Yeah, but the state's already made that decision for us, George. We can't stop that.
All right. That was,
But that's only in the, for the depressed businesses,
Correct.
right?
yeah, keep your drugs in your town. Yeah, I get it.
I think I'm going to make a suggestion that we carry this forward to next week, because I really want Ken here. Ken did send out some data, and he seemed pretty confident that he understood it, and I want to hear, but I didn't understand it. The email didn't help me at all on the courier issues. So I need to hear from him.
Okay, that sounds good.
Motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion to move, you don't know what article that is offhand, do you? Move the article on marijuana delivery to.
Hold on, I'll get it.
to 20.
So I make a motion that we move the Article 8 on the special town meeting on marijuana delivery regulations. We continue that public hearing to April 26th.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Mike,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and me. Thanks. So that's that. 9 is the affordable. What was 8? That was the
That's the stormwater pollution, which is on page 5 of the draft report, which is
let me find that.
hold on, 470.
Add a new Article 4, section stormwater pollution prevention.
Jesus, I made notes on every one of those, but this one. Hold on a minute.
I don't seem to have that report you speak of.
Yeah, I know, and I don't either. I mean, drive-throughs, setbacks. Program. Marijuana delivery. We're going to have to continue this one as well.
All right.
I think he left out his proposed report on that one.
Sonia, you still with us?
She left. She gave me co-host responsibilities. Something about having to eat. I don't know. Well, that's more.
That's overrated.
Yeah, tell me about it.
People are funny like that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's a little bit about it, Richard, in in the spring 2021 zoning articles documents that I just brought up. I can read it if you want. It looks pretty straightforward.
Surprised I don't have it. Go ahead.
Article stormwater regulations. Motion, I move the town vote to add new section 770 stormwater management in the zoning bylaw as presented. Statement, the planning board held a public hearing on April 12th, 2021. Planning board heard input from the public and deliberated on the proposed change. The planning board recommends this amendment. The US EPA MS4 Stormwater Management Program regulations require the adoption of this regulation. It controls phosphorus pollution in the urbanized areas of Wareham, which are the more densely developed areas of town. Quantum for action, this bylaw does not meet the criteria for simple majority allowed by the most recent changes in MGL Chapter 48, and so requires at least a 2/3 majority of the town meeting to pass. So it looks like it is very similar to the floodplain maps where it's housekeeping and we have to adopt it, and it's just a formality.
I agree with that.
Unless all the towns reject it, then they start to talk to you.
Yeah, I have found on Ken's latest draft report to town meeting, it's on page 35. Yeah, this is the one where we just got to align our zoning laws with the FEMA laws. And because if they don't line up, then there's the insurance liability.
That's why I wonder why they do this to us when they're going to inflict it on us anyway.
Yeah, it seems like a very poor process. We should pass a bylaw that says something along the lines of whatever FEMA says we'll do until we sue them.
They spent all their money on COVID, so your flood insurance is going to go up.
Okay. But I do not see a proposed recommended action on behalf of the planning board, but I guarantee you it says that we should support and approve this.
Well, it shouldn't take that long to handle it next week, I don't.
Yeah, I think that's it. So I'll make the motion that we continue to April 26th, planning board meeting, special town meeting, Article 9, floodplain management overlay district for further consideration.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Mike King?
Aye.
Mike Baptiste? Okay, you can make it a little smooth. That was Mike Baptiste, wasn't it?
Nope.
It was me. Yep.
Mike Baptiste,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
aye for the chair. Thank you, folks. Our earlier discussion of the two applications sound like both worthy candidates. I would just
I think Sam Corbett would be a lot more valuable as a voting member with his background.
I
And,
agree.
The other guy seems to be, his heart's in the right place. As an associate, I think he'd get an education, how the thing flows and all that. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right on, Mike.
I couldn't agree more, Michael. I looked at Sam. I felt that he has some clear opinions across a broad spectrum. He has good experience. And he would be my number one choice. And I would also like very much to invite Carl to join as an associate.
Need a motion, George?
Please.
A motion to accept the application of Sam Corbett as a voting member and Kyle Swanson as an associate.
Schultz,
Works.
Carl Schultz.
What do they call him?
Swanson. At least that's what I heard anyway.
That's what I heard. And I'm Swenson, just so you know. I'm not Swanson, I'm Swenson.
Oh, man, I thought you were involved with the Swanson family.
Nah, I used to do TV dinners, but not anymore.
Was there a second
Second,
discussion? All in favor? Mike King,
aye.
Mike Baptiste,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for the chair. That seems to be all I have for this evening.
We have the simple versus super majority question on Wareham Village still out
On just
there.
one. That would be my take on rereading that amendment to 48, that this would require a simple majority. I was asked if we are a MBTA community, and I guess we are.
Are we officially? I didn't think we gained that status.
I don't think, I won't say officially, I just got the impression that we contribute to the, or we pay dues to MBTA, or however it is you do it, but
Or I thought it was strictly GATRA that we paid dues to every year.
I mean, given the location and I think this qualifies more than the previous one we discussed there, out on the other side of 25.
That I would agree with.
Yeah, Ken sent out a quantum checklist on, if you go to your email inbox, April 14th at 5:43 p.m. That was 6 days ago. And in there is the latest draft report, which I've been referring to tonight, and the downtown quantum checklist document. And if you read through that, you see a lot of yeses in there, and in my mind, it clearly applies. This is the downtown village rezoning effort is like a poster child for the 40A law. The HREOD was a foster child, if you will.
I'm not seeing that from him. Oh, I got more on the 14th here. Let's see.
Would you like me to share it with you?
Yeah, I was just wanted to see his.
Actually, Ken needs to be here to explain this. I will forward this email again to make sure everybody has it to the planning board right now. I just hit send to George, Mike, and Ken. You'll see the draft report, and the draft report's important because Ken included in that all the actual articles. Charlie Rowley had made a really good point last week that we hadn't done a good job of including the level of detail that people need to have available to them. So he distributed that and also included that in that the downtown quantum checklist. So I think we should ask Ken to go through that with us next Monday. So I would make a motion that, oh boy, we continue the discussion on the quantum for, bear with me, annual town meeting, Article 16, Wareham Village 1 Reinvestment District, to the planning board meeting on April 26th.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Mike Baptiste,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Mike King,
Aye.
and I for the chair. All right. We got it covered?
Got it covered. I want everyone to acknowledge me tonight that I did a good job on my motions. I've been practicing all week.
You did an excellent job.
You did a great job.
We didn't close any public hearings either.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Was there a second?
There was.
Oh, okay.
Don't ignore me, George.
I thought you wanted to stay longer.
Yeah.
All of. There she is.
Yes, Ken. Guess not, Ken.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
See you next week. Thank you.
Mike Baptiste,
What?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
meeting adjourned at 8:33.
Good job.